Hello! So I promised you a video on the CTE changes and my thoughts on them. Now this is about the third time I've tried doing this narration. I've tried writing down a script so I got all the points out, but I can't really get my point across the way I would like to. It starts turning into a rant. This isn't supposed to be a rant about the CTE changes. I think the changes on the whole are good. I think the way the changes are being done is bad. Now, some of these changes have come about because of the netcode. Because they improved the netcode, the time to kill in the game has gone down. So if you imagine being shot at by an AEK, which is doing 1,000 rounds a minute at 25 damage, it only takes 0.24 of a second for you to die. Now, in the old game there was a bit of a delay, it was a bit woolly, so you'd get the effects of the first couple of shots and then you'd die. In the current version of the netcode, without any changes, what happened is you just died straight away. The CTE netcode has been improved again over what was put into the live game. So the 30Hz tick rate has been fiddled with and the frame history time has been altered so that it now works a lot better than even the version that's in live. And we all remember that in the old version of the game you'd get shot at, you'd run around a corner and you'd die. And that was because the netcode was awful. In the new and improved netcode, what happens is you get shot at and you just die instantly. So that 0.24 of a second to kill you is now accurately modelled, so you don't even get the effect of the first bullet hitting you before you die. You're just dead. So this has meant they've had to put changes in place to slow the damage down. So what they did was they took all the 25 damage guns and made them do 24 damage. And that means that instead of being a 4-shot kill at their maximum damage, they're now a 5-shot kill at their maximum damage. They didn't change their minimum damage, so at range they're still doing the same damage as they did before. What it means is that close range damage is now reduced. So for the example of the AEK, it now means it takes 0.3 of a second to kill you if they're firing at full auto and all the bullets hit. That doesn't sound a lot of difference, but it means that the game has more time to register the hits and show you the hits. Now for guns like the AEK, the MP7 and the CZ3A1, that still wasn't slow enough. So what they've done is nerfed their rate of fire. So they're all down to 850, 900 rounds a minute instead of 1,000 rounds per minute. And this is all due just down to the netcode. With the new netcode, those 1,000 rounds per minute guns just felt like instant death. So slowing down the rate at which guns killed you had to be done. I just disagree with the way they've done it. I think what they should have done is scaled back the rate of fire of every gun in the game. Because you can do that proportionally. You could go into every gun and say, right, we're going to slow every gun down by 10%. That way, every gun changes and all the changes are balanced and fair. By dropping the damage, what it has done is meant that the slower rate of fire guns are suffering more than the higher rate of fire guns. Let me explain. If you're using a high rate of fire 25, well now 24 damage gun, and you need to hit with 5 shots, that's far easier to do at somebody who's dancing around you than it is to say, take out your slow rate of fire 33 damage gun and hit him with 4 shots. Every shot that misses because they're dancing around is a massive penalty on a slow rate of fire gun. Then if you consider that they haven't changed the rate of fire of pistols or the damage of pistols, you can soon see that I'm better off using my pistol than my slow rate of fire assault rifle. Even if it's a P226, it often kills faster at close range now than a slow rate of fire assault rifle. If you then throw into mix things like the Deagle or the Magnum, which has now had its trigger delay removed, you'll find that you're dying faster to a pistol than you can kill them with a slow rate of fire assault rifle. You've got to hit them with 4 shots, they've got to hit you with 4 shots, or if they're using one of the high calibers, 2 or 1 shots. If you add to that the fact that characters with pistols out now move faster than you do if you have an assault rifle out, then the situation just gets worse. But I'll go into the character movement changes later on. But the biggest thing you notice with this change to the damage is when you come across a couple of players. So you aim at one, fire a burst, move to the other one, and then you realise that the first one isn't dead, because you kind of programmed yourself to knowing, right, I'm using an M416, I know that if I go ba 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 ba, the guy's dead, and I move on to the next guy. Now what you get is that guy still needs one more bullet to kill, and you're going to have to train yourself again to remember how long it takes for a gun to kill somebody. Then you've got to do that for every gun you like to use. It's an awfully big change. Now that wouldn't be so bad if that was the only change they'd made to how the game feels, but it isn't. They've changed the character movement as well. So this started with the removal of head flinching. So when somebody shoots at you and gets close or hits, your character model doesn't flinch anymore, or it doesn't flinch to the extent that it used to. Before, what it could do was pull your head back behind cover so subsequent shots would miss. By reducing the amount of head flinching your model does, they've reduced that problem. And they also decrease the transition time to get into a crouch and out of a crouch. So your character model crouches and stands faster. Both of these changes mean that characters behind cover are actually modelled properly, and if you can see them, you can shoot them. But you aren't going to be able to shoot them when they see themselves behind cover anymore. Now I'm assuming that changing those transition times is what led them to putting in a more Battlefield 3 character movement model. Your character now reaches its maximum sprint speed faster. They haven't changed the speed at which you sprint, but what has changed is how fast you reach that top speed. They've also changed the speed at which you strafe from side to side, and the speed at which your character changes direction. Movement is a lot more snappy and fast paced. Now the faster movement on its own isn't a bad thing. The problem I have with it is that it changes the way that the game feels. When you're moving around, it feels a little awkward at first, but where it becomes really awkward is watching other players move, particularly shooting at them, because they don't move the way that you predict them to. We've been playing Battlefield 4 for almost a year, and we predict where characters are going to be, how fast they're going to get there, how fast they can change direction. Now, all that stuff that you do instinctively in game, you're going to have to relearn. And that's my big problem with these changes. Yes, you can change the weapon damage, yes, you can change the character movement, but why fundamentally change the way the game feels and acts this far into the game's life? This version of Battlefield 4 that's on the CTE servers doesn't play or feel like Battlefield 4 on the live servers. It's a massive change to do in one big lump. Like I say, all the people who've been playing CTE are used to these changes. They've come in gradually and we've had some time to play on them. But having played Dragon's Teeth for a couple of weeks and not playing on the CTE servers, then coming back to CTE, the game feels completely different. The gunplay's different, the timings are different, the movement's different. It just doesn't seem the same, and it's going to take people quite a lot of getting used to. If I play on the live game and then swap to CTE, the gameplay feels awkward. It's an uncomfortable process. I think you have quite a few people unhappy at just how drastic the difference is and how their game has changed. And I think part of this problem is down to having three different visions as to what Battlefield 4 should be. We have DICE in Stockholm, who created the game, who have one vision for it. DICE LA have taken over the game and obviously have a different vision for it. And then we have the players. We have one bunch of players who are quite happy with Battlefield 4 as it is, and we have the players who I call the vocal minority. So they're the people that get on the forums and complain. And an example of that, I think, is pilots. The jet changes are just down to people complaining. I don't think you can create and balance a game like this by committee. You can't do it by just looking at the stats either. The slams have been nerfed because they're far more popular than anti-tank mines. But slams are far more utilitarian than anti-tank mines. You can use slams in a whole load of different ways that tank mines just can't be used. Nerfing the slam to make tank mines more popular just seems completely backwards. What you should do is give the tank mine a use. Yes, make it more powerful than the slam, but is there really anything wrong with the slam as it is at the moment? A tank has to drive over all three slams you can put down normally for it to be killed. And it's been the same for quite a few engineer nerfs. So we've now got new nerfs on the Stigler and Igler that now can't change direction as quickly. We've had the mobile AA consistently nerfed, and we've also had the SRAW nerfed and the Javelin nerfed. For me, these are all changes that push the balance in the wrong way. I see that vehicles and aircraft are there to support the infantry, not to dominate the infantry. While I've been playing CTE, reading the patch notes and reading the forums, I've come to the opinion that these changes aren't being made for the good of Battlefield 4. These changes are being made for Hardline, Battlefront, and whatever Battlefield titles come along next on the same engine. That's the only reason I can see that they would change the feel and balance of the gameplay this dramatically so far into Battlefield 4's life. If they want to improve future Battlefield and related games, then fine, do that on the CTE servers. But I think this is too big a change, too late for Battlefield 4 and its regular players. I can now live with the changes on CTE, but it's taken me a few weeks to get used to it. And I don't think that a lot of players out there are going to be happy that their game suddenly changes this much over the course of one patch. I could be completely wrong. These are just my thoughts and ramblings having played CTE. I think DICE are taking a big risk changing the game this late on, but you'll get to judge for yourself when the patch hits. There have been a lot of changes to the visuals of the game that don't really affect the gameplay and its feel, so I'll cover those in a separate video. Thanks for watching and putting up with my ramblings.